Okay, it's that time of the week. Let's get it. Indeed. Man talk, man talk, man talk, man talk, man talk central. That's what we're doing here. 4 dudes out of the mud, now we're ruling here. We give it to you, deliver like Amazon. You're listening to Kings and Champions. No matter what we're talking about, we're gonna give it to you straight, man, no doubt. No doubt. Hey yo, we on our way to greatness. God's got our back, so chill and relax. This is Man Talk Central. Welcome back to another episode of Man Talk Central. Let's get it.
All right, welcome back to another episode of Man Talk Central, where experience meets perspectives and nothing is off limit. No filters, no fluff, just raw, uncut conversation. Before we get into it, make sure you tap in with us, like, follow, and subscribe on YouTube, Instagram, or TikTok. You can also reach us directly at the email below. Let me introduce to some and present to others, 3 brothers like no other. Good morning, Dan.
Morning, everybody out there. Thanks for tuning in. Hopefully you had a good Father's Day. Let's get into it.
DJ Eddie T, good morning, sir.
That would be me. Good morning. Hope all is well. Hope you guys enjoy the episode. Let's do it.
And the guy that smells good today, Colonel Esquire.
Good morning, everybody. Good morning, gang. Hey, looking forward to another episode. Let's go.
And I'm your host, the law-abiding citizen. So today we have a couple episodes all about choices, whether you're an athlete making a split-second decision, a homeowner protecting your family, or a state carrying out the ultimate punishment. Every decision has consequences. We're going to look at 4 different stories that all revolve around responsibility and accountability. So let's start with the sportsmanship. What does sportsmanship really mean? DJ ADT, I'm going to start with you.
Sure, let's get it. I'm gonna open it up with me. All right. Sportsmanship to me is just basically character. I feel if after you've been defeated, you're down, you don't want to talk to anybody, but still, you walk by, you shake a gentleman's hand. Hey, great game. I'll see you the next time. We're in the same conference. I'm pretty sure we're gonna see each other 3 more times. So you're taught that as a kid, sportsmanship. That goes along with just in life. You don't just walk by people and give them the cold shoulder or anything of that nature. I just think it shows that you have enjoyed the game or whatever the case is. And hey, man, good job. I did the best I could tonight. You did the best you could. You beat me, but hey, I still respect you for it. So, but as a kid looking up to those people, I think a lot of times the kids see what the professional athletes are doing and they try to mimic that. So I really feel as if that's something that everyone should take part in when it comes to sportsmanship. Somebody gets hit, you help them up off the floor. Now I'm speaking of basketball, even football for that matter. I think that that's just something that just as a man you should do. Shake his hand, help him get up. I've seen, I know it sounds crazy, but back in the day, you'd see Westerns, guys are getting a fight, you knock him down. After the fight was over, you go help him up, all of that stuff. So it goes back from a long time ago. Sportsmanship, that's just part of being a good man, I feel. So that's my take on it.
Sportsmanship. Interesting. Great comments. Agree with namely everything you said, DJ Eddie T. Outside of the old Western, I got to go see one. I haven't seen one of those in a while. But anyway, Thunder Dan, talk to me, sir.
I have to agree with DJ ADT. Yeah, character, but I'm going to go the respect route. There's many aspects of sportsmanship you can go with, like integrity and all kinds of other things. But I want to say respect. Like shaking your hand after the match. We were taught about that when we were young and growing up. And, it does show a sign of maturity, a sign of, okay, it's just a game. It's not that big. It's not detrimental to your life. It's not detrimental to what's going on. Hey, next time, you got us this time. Next time we coming back, we're going to roll on it. There are some issues with some people that don't do it, and that just goes to, as you said, DJ ADT, goes to their character. Uh, it's not a good sign that you can't take a loss, and then you come back and you pouting. I get it. We all do it on a pickup game. Nobody wants to shake hands after a pickup game, but as a professional, you should be able to do that. You should be able to represent your team. You put your team on your back. You put your city on your back. You should be a good ambassador for your city, and you should show that goodwill towards the man that obviously put you out, or the woman that actually put you out, and give them that respect. It's just that simple.
Interesting, interesting. Maybe it's generational. I don't know. Colonel Esquire, talk to us.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of things going on with this. But let me start off by saying with the sportsmanship thing, I echo the comments of DJ Eddie T and Dan. Like, it's definitely something that is needed in society. It's a sign of respect, sign of maturity. It teaches us how to handle adversity. We're not going to win all the time. Things aren't going to go our way. And so, we need to learn how to do that. Acquire sportsmanship, shake the hand of the person that beat us. Good game. Hey, I'll get you next time. You know, uh, win and lose with class and dignity. That all that's well and good. And I think is members of society. I think sports goes a long way in helping us mature, and it shows us a lot about who we are as people and our weaknesses, our strengths, all those things. But I'm gonna go in here a couple of different ways. I think society as a whole, not the kids, I think the parents have kind of uh, put a dent in the sportsmanship. There's been a decline in sportsmanship among the parents more so than the people actually playing. I mean, you see these people, these little video clips of people fighting in the stands and over their kids and yelling and screaming at the referees and all that kind of stuff. In fact, a couple of articles I pulled up, like over 60% of parents reported witnessing inappropriate behavior from other adults at games. 1 in 4 parents admit to yelling at referees or coaches. I'm guilty as charged. I ain't gonna lie. And 17% of kids reported that their parents' behavior made them want to quit their sport. And so you ask, okay, why are the parents so invested? Uh, they're not playing the game. Maybe they're living vicariously through their children. Maybe they spent a lot of time and money hoping that they can get that scholarship because they need that scholarship for them to put their kid through college. Uh, there's a lot of stuff going on, and so I think a lot of times that will trickle down to the athlete as far as how the parents behave. I can't tell you how many times, even when I was working at the school, I would hear teachers who were part-time coaches, talking about how they were, basically a mob of parents in the parking lot after a game would come to them because they wasn't calling the right plays and all that kind of stuff. So I think that's one aspect of it. Like, sportsmanship is down a lot because of the parents. Also, let's think about this, gentlemen, us as fans. Now, we're old school to where you hear the stories about like basketball players or football players. They really didn't talk to other members that they played their rivals until after they retired. And then they criticize the younger generation for having a relationship and training together during the off season. Like the LeBron James and the Kevin Durant's and all that. They hang out with each other during their friends, a lot of them. And we as old folks, Generation X, we criticize it. Oh, Michael Jordan never talked to Charles Barkley, or Magic Johnson and Larry Bird never hung out, or whatever the case is. So I think it's also a generational factor as well. But um, sportsmanship is needed, but I think us as fans and really us as parents, I think we're the ones that have contributed to that more so than the athletes themselves, negative or positive.
Outstanding, which slides into the second round of discussion regarding that, the parents, right? I'm glad you pulled up some stats. I know one stat that I saw said in the culture of high school, 75% of parents are more concerned about little Johnny, what's going to happen to him, right? Is he going to make it to the next level? Are you preventing him from making it to the next level? So from a parent perspective, since we all are parents, what are your thoughts? Especially you, DJ ADT, I believe you're the freshest, your youngest son, I believe, is the youngest out of the group. Well, no, outside of Mallory, but was engaged in collegiate offers, things of that nature. So can you speak to that, sir?
Um, As far as what? I'm sorry.
Okay, so can you
what
speak
part?
to from a parent perspective, right? When you see your son out there is engaged with, whether a play was called, he didn't get the ball, or maybe he got the ball, or because I know he's a wide receiver, but they cut him 2 yards, or it was a late hit, or things of that nature, right? Anything that can kind of just what's what I'm looking for, could possibly hinder your son from, I'll just say, progressing. Like, what are your thoughts from a parent's perspective when you see things like this happening on the field?
Well, it depends on if it's a coach's call or a bad play by an opponent. If it was a coach's call, I mean, I was never that person to get involved in what the coaches were doing per se. Now, when they were younger, of course, every parent wants their little Johnny to play as much as they can, because that's when you learn. You take a little kid and you put him on the bench, he doesn't learn that way. That's just my thought. Now, you do have those kids out there that are just like, you need to pick another sport. I coached youth basketball, there for a while, a few years. And some of the kids that would come out, they just weren't coordinated. They hadn't developed skills like the other kids had. I mean, we've all seen it. But then when, kids get older, you can kind of tell, hey, this kid has a little talent, let's kind of, go his way, and just to see if we can, I guess, make that little talent better, mold that talent, take that piece of clay and mold it into what you wanted to mold it into. But as far as, like I said, the coaches, making a bad play or making a bad call, the kid is open and they don't throw it to him or something like that. I mean, as fans, you see it, but as a person who coached before, you can't see everything. That's why you have your assistants. And so, maybe if you get it the next time. But as far as all that goes, I don't feel as if that's something that people should really, really focus on per se. And I hope I'm answering your question, because
No, I was just about to say, I apologize. I didn't ask the correct the question the right way. The question
No, I
should
get
have been asked, if your son, right? Let's say he a cheap shot or whatever, and your son
okay.
retaliated, right?
Oh, okay.
Right. How does, from a parent perspective, do you expect your son to retaliate, or do you expect him just like, okay, I'm just going to take the high road and move on?
Well, as a parent, you care about your child. Of course, you expect them to. That goes more back to protecting yourself, and hey, man, if somebody hits you, you hit them back type thing. We teach them that growing up. Y'all were taught that. I was taught that. Somebody hits you, you hit them back, that type thing. But sports wise, you're going to get a penalty, because it's always the one that retaliates is the one that gets, always gets the flag or gets the technical or whatever the case is. But yeah, you want them to retaliate. That's just human nature. So, but yeah, I think that it's bad sportsmanship if it's a cheap shot. That kid on the other side may have done his homework on your child, and hey, man, this guy's going somewhere. I'm not going anywhere. I'm gonna try to take him out. I mean, you have kids like that. I've been on my boys about, they were pretty good athletes. I've been on them about, hey, when you go out and enjoy yourself after a game or whatever the case is, make sure you're careful, especially with those cross-town rivalries, because you have kids that are jealous. They'll do certain things to you. But as far as sportsmanship, when it comes to that, I think retaliation is a bad thing. I don't think you should. You just get up, shake it off, and again, that's a way of showing your sportsmanship. Hey, I didn't come back at this kid. I'm taking the higher road. So
Okay.
there we have it.
Thunder Dan, what are your thoughts?
Well, we looked at it like this when our kids was growing up. 'Cause my daughter, she played quite a few sports, but it was just a vehicle so that she can get out and learn how to socialize, learn how to be in society without having anger issues when something goes wrong, and coming over adversity. Because let's face it, you're going to win, you're going to lose. Losing is part of the adversity of getting over it. Learning how to deal with that is what the vehicle is about. So the true goal for us in my household was the education piece of it, learning how to you know understand what it is that needs to be understood in the class to make the academic side of your life work. But we didn't look at it like that. We had plenty of bad calls and plenty of I'm not gonna say cheap shots, but plays that didn't look right. And it's a matter of trying to get over it. You gotta, as a parent, you don't like to see that. You hate to see that, but you still want to have your child uh, revert back to who they are naturally and not go to the animalistic side of things and get involved in that thing. Don't get me wrong, it's not easy because you're wanting to go off, but you still got to make sure that you represent yourself and represent your family as well as the school that you're participating with or the city that you're participating with, depending on the event. So we didn't focus too much on that. We try to steer away from that. We always talked about it. We always had the coaches in there. The coach would have their meetings, especially after a I don't know, a bad play, we'll put it that way. So we were lucky in that aspect that we had good coaches and good people. I mean, it was Valdosta, everybody knows that's Titletown, you know what I'm saying? So it's a good time, you know what I mean? We had a good time watching sports. But I do want to address something there, Colonel Esquire. Now, I understand that you're talking about LeBron and being friends with everybody and all that, but we did have some older people that were older generation that were friends, but once you get in between those lines, we ain't friends. It's all business. So we got to go at it. So I kind of rebut to what you're saying about the older generation as not being friends and not playing together. I think there were some that were behind the scenes friends, but once you get between those lines on that court of basketball, or you get between those lines on football or whatever, yo, it's go time. Friendship out the door. We picked the friendship up after the game. That's how I was raised, and that's how I was taught when I was growing up, and that's what I taught my kids. You get on that field and you get between those lines, take that friendship, throw it out the door. Pick it up when you're done with that game. Represent your team and represent your city.
And to kind of add to what you just stated, Brother Dan, I remember the GOAT, Michael Jordan himself, stated, his best friend was Charles Oakley. And, he used to hit him the hardest on the court, right? But, when you look at when we came up to now, it was just, we really talked about sportsmanship. But then showmanship started entering into the games to whereas those that was very good at what they did. I use the wide receivers, for example, because, they ain't catch one pass all game. They catch one pass for a first down. What they do, they want to do backflips. They want to, direct the crowd to, certain locations. I mean, what is it? Just play. But showmanship, I think that's where a lot of when the sportsmanship leaves, when people use a lot of showmanship. Colonel Esquire.
Well, I mean, that's a total separate thing to me, but I never really had a problem. Well, I don't want to go down that rabbit hole, but I think it all depends on who was displaying the showmanship, depending on where people had issues. Um, because back when it first became a thing, there were only certain athletes that were doing it and they were criticized because of it. Now it's just a big deal, and now it's no big deal no matter who it is. Anybody and everybody celebrates, and it's a part of sports now. But even growing up, we couldn't do nothing. I mean, we had to have our, jerseys tucked in our shorts, and you couldn't, you remember, you make a touchdown, you had to set the ball. Couldn't even drop the ball. You had to set the ball down on the ground or hand it to the referee. So I just think over time, that's kind of changed. But the sportsmanship, I think it's always been a part of sports. I think we always do it. But a lot of times, depending on the game or depending on the setting, yeah, you're probably not going to want to shake somebody's hand right then and there. Maybe the next day or whatever the case is. I mean, when you see them, especially pickup games, man, I done walked off the court a whole bunch of times, pissed off and upset. And then the next day, we talk about it and joke about it or whatever. Because, I used to just play ball every day at lunch when I was in, and there'd be all kind of stuff going on. And man, I ain't shaking your hand. Matter of fact, I'm gonna see if I can write these papers up on you when I get back to the office. But yeah, all right, yeah, DJ the T, I'll get to you in just a second. But yeah, and as far as the showmanship, I really haven't been a fan. Let me push back. I really haven't been one to do stuff like that, but I've also not been a person to really object, you know, because I mean, it's depending on the play, depending on the situation. Of course, you're going to be excited. Of course, you're going to celebrate. So that I don't really have any issue with.
Gotcha. Before I go to you, DJ Eddie T, I always figure they need to have a cooling off period, right? Because let's say it's game 7, right? To go to the NBA championship, right? And you guys lose by 1. I'm at the, it's a last second shot. Do I really want to shake somebody's hand right now? Or do I really want to just go to the locker room for a second, let me cool off, cry, do whatever I need to do, and then meet Joe Blow out on the side? Cause I'm sure they all connect. I'm sure they all talk, especially nowadays. Hey, bro, that was a good play, so on and so forth. But in the heat of the moment, I think so much is expected of that athlete in the heat of the moment when we don't know really what their emotional state is like. DJ Eddie T?
Yeah, I just wanted to, you guys reminded me of something when we were talking about, sportsmanship. Back when we were playing, you did not want to shake, per se, Kellyville's hand after a game, after everything that they called us, after everything they did to us. So it just happened to run across my mind, and that's the only team that I really felt as if I didn't care anything about, just due to the history of the town, due to the history of what was going on when we were on the field or on the court. That's the only town that we've ever been escorted out of that I can recall. You guys remember that? Yeah,
Wasn't
we
it
had to get a police
wasn't it
escort out of town.
Collinsville? Didn't we have to get escorted out of Collinsville too?
I don't remember that. I just remember getting escorted out of Kellyville.
Yes, that was us. My bad. Bad mic, hot mic, but that was us. I think DJ the T, you were gone.
Okay, because I just remember, we got escorted out of Kellyville, and that's the same little town that bulldozed that family's house down
The
back
black
in the day.
family's house.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
Yeah.
just want to make sure we kept.
But anyway, it's hard to, after you've gone through everything with a team, that wasn't, to me, that wasn't smack talking. To me, that was hatred. So it's a whole different deal. Say when we played Berry Hill, or if we played Collinsville, or we played Oologah or something like that, that was more of a Webster per se. That was more smack talking. When you have some hatred, you don't want to shake that guy's hand after. It's like, man, you're taking this personal. This is deeply rooted in you for whatever reason. So, but anyway, I just wanted to share that. But I just happened to think about that.
Yeah. Any alibis regarding sportsmanship? Well, let me just add this. Even though we're not playing, I'm not a New York Jets fan. But, I talk a little noise about the Jets. But when they have kudos, I give them kudos. But when they get spanked, I talk a little louder. I mean, and, I know Dan, maybe this is his showmanship. He has, Dallas Cowboy memes he sends to me about 20 a month. So, I mean, I think bottom line, to close this segment out, I think some people just need to take a pause, right? Just look at the scenario. As long as there's no fisticuffs, ain't nobody really cussing each other out. If they don't shake hands, okay. Let them go their own separate ways. Maybe they'll shake hands a little bit later. That's just my stance on it. I'm not, to your point, DJ Eddie T, I don't feel like I need to go shake the opponent's hand after a game, especially if it's one of those type of opponents. And go from there. Go ahead, Colonel Squire.
My apologies. I know you're going to close this segment out, but you triggered me when you started talking about the Dallas Cowboys. And I'll say this. So we're talking about sportsmanship, but I think sportsmanship should really start and end with the fans. So true story. I got an eyewitness in the house. Dallas Cowboys, New York Jets game. We go to it. Dallas Cowboys run amok amongst our New York Jets. They stomp a mud hole in us. You know the game. I think it was like 31-7 or whatever. Yeah, it was horrible. But the worst part about it were these kids, these parents allowing their kids to come up to us and take shots and act a fool and say all this out of, crazy stuff. Like, they're teaching their kids from a young age, like, it's okay to be disrespectful to adults. Now, looking back, Dan and I should have calmly went over to, one of the security guards. Hey, what's the local number of the ICE? We got some people we need to deport here. Could have done that, but we just charged it to the gang, kept our cool because we were in enemy territory. And I'm joking around, but it was really disappointing to me, like, because I would never allow my children to be disrespectful to an adult. And I'm not just talking about the New York Jets, Dallas Cowboys. I'm talking about in general. A lot of fans allow their kids to act up like that. So I'm saying sportsmanship starts at home, not just on the field, not just on the court, but at the kitchen table, in the front yard, in the backyard. So I think this is kind of a PSA for parents to be like, hey, you gotta teach that respect, that foundational level of respect with your kids.
Totally agree with you. All I will say is if you go to a Philadelphia Eagles game, there is no sportsmanship if you are not a fan. There is no sportsmanship if you're not a fan.
Reinforce the rhythm, double check the mics, reiterate the styles I know that you like. Get your rhyme ambassador, the man you've been asking for. Can't a kick past your door, automatic. I got the charismatic persona, bar stay hot like I'm sitting inside a sauna. I stay away from the drama, I separate myself from MCs like a sentence has got a comma. G-I-B-S to the O-N. Thank you, Lord, for the blessings that you're showing. I get on the mic and start going. It's so intoxicating, like a .08 that I'm blowing. A hobby of mine, but I do it like a profession. Bars over bass and treble, there's no question. Yes, I'm confessing. Before I got saved, I used to pull girls like this at my discretion. But that man is gone, he went away. At war with your flesh, gotta die each day. In Christ, I'm a new creature. But on this microphone, yo, I'm still a monster that'll haunt ya. Watch me go bonkers, I might go unconscious. Flavor in the beat like cayenne and cilantro. Bars are raining in the booth to wear a poncho. Man talk central, 4 dudes, quattro.
With that being said, starting July 1st, Idaho becomes the only U.S. state where the firing squad is primary method of execution. The law passed in 2025 by Governor Brad Little follows years of legal delays and failed lethal injections, using lethal injection only as a backup. Woo, that's interesting, but it's right up my alley because I believe in, well, that's a different story. Brother Dan, your thoughts on that?
Yeah, first came across this, I thought it was pretty interesting. But then after you do a little bit of research, there are 5 other states that actually use the firing squad, or have authorized, let me correct that, have authorized the firing squad. And that's Idaho, Mississippi, Oklahoma, go figure that, South Carolina, and Utah. They've allowed the firing squad. And then on March 7th of 2025, South Carolina has actually executed somebody through the firing squad. A gentleman named of Brad Sigmund, pronounce his name right or not, but he was executed through the firing squad. It's makes you wonder why, and then you start reading into it. I guess they were buying the sedatives or drugs or whatever it takes to sedate a person and go through the process of executing that person through the lethal injection way. And they were using too much money, wasting too much money, over $200,000 of money being wasted for just that alone. So even though we think it's primitive, which it probably should be labeled as primitive, there's more states using it, and it's been done, but it's not obviously being covered and not being prominent and placed out front so that we can move past this form. What's next? The guillotine? So something that we should probably consider as a established society and move past the barbaric and archaic ways of doing things. And with that being said, it's disheartening that they actually have rules and people are still, it's a volunteer program. So you have to have a certain requirements to be on that firing squad. You have to apply for that firing squad. You have to keep up those requirements yearly, according to what they're saying. And I couldn't imagine just going home every night knowing that you're part of the firing squad. I mean, it's a special person that has to be on that squad. I couldn't do it. But hey, when you going to work today, I'm gonna put a slug in Buddy today. You know, apparently they put a target over the guy, the gentleman or female being executed, and it's directly over the heart, and you have to be an expert shot to shoot the target. Uh, it's crazy that this story is we're even talking about this story, for me anyway. I don't understand it. I don't agree with it. I think we're a better society, and we should move on and either the gas chamber or a more humane way of executing prisoners.
You know, Brother Dan, in reference to that, I remember reading something about instead of having individuals shoot the individual, they were looking at trying to find some type of equipment or setup to where that would actually do it to reduce the amount of PTSD that will follow that individual after performing that action. DJ Eddie T, talk to me.
Yeah, after reading the article, speaking of the mechanical part of it, none of it is something that, someone wants to, I guess, discuss or agree with or anything like that. But me coming up, like in my, my early 20s, I started thinking about how if a person is on death row, why are they there? Did they go in and just massacre just an innocent family? What happened? What caused them to be on death row? And then I started thinking about, well, I think they should be killed the same way that they killed others. Okay. And again, that's just my opinion. But then again, you have to go back to the Bible where it states, thou shalt not kill, thou shalt not murder, commit murder. I think being on a firing squad, to me, is considered murder. I think, what's the difference in the person on a firing squad working at a, Department of Corrections as opposed to a military guy who's a sniper? I mean, what's the difference? I know we're defending, and I know this is going to get you guys going because you guys are military, but you're defending your country. Okay, I get it, but yet you are still trained to kill. So with a firing squad in the states that have put that up as one of the methods of, doing away with a criminal, man, that's a tough decision. I mean, what's humane? You killing somebody, there's no humane way to kill them. I mean, you talk about euthanasia. I was reading an article talking about euthanasia. You're talking about the nitrogen and all that good stuff. There have been many, many, many cases to where lethal injection didn't go right, and the person just suffered. Back in the day, electric chair. I mean, man, that's brutal. But again, you go back to, what did that person do? Why are you on death row? I just, so there are so many factors in it and so many different ways to look at it, but I know that we'll get some backlash off of this, off of my comments, off of the three of you, the comments that you guys will present. But, the three of you, all of us will have different opinions, but I feel as if someone kills somebody, I think that they should be dealt with in a certain way. But again, like I said, in the Bible, you shouldn't commit murder. That's, you killing somebody is murder. And I know that we'll go into our next segment about, stand your ground. But again, we have to believe the good and the bad in the Bible.
Well, before I pass it on to you, Colonel Esquire, deadly force, that's always the key, right? Those two words, the use of deadly force. But to your point, DJ Eddie T, if somebody breaks in somebody's house and they kill a family, I believe they should die quickly. I don't believe they should sit in prison for 10, 15, 20, 30 years on death row waiting for someone to decide it's time for him to die or her to die, right? So I totally feel where you're coming from when you talk about the Bible, but in these times, these world, the Bible is a doctrine, but it's not a doctrine in society as a whole, right? We pick and choose what we want to use, when it comes to the Bible. So I get the commandments, but they didn't think about the commandments when they went up in that house and they did what they did. So, with that, Colonel Esquire.
Okay, we done gone down a whole bunch of, roots in the tree. But let me start off by saying your last comment. Yes, while the Bible is a guide that not everybody uses, I would obviously defer or disagree and think that it's something that everybody should use. But with that being said, killing versus murder, yes, thou shalt not kill. There's killing and then there's murder. So, when the Israelites went to take over all the countries and King David and King Saul, Samson, there was a lot of killing involved, but versus murdering someone, there is a difference. I'm authorized to kill someone if I'm in the military and I'm on patrol and I'm in a firefight. I'm not authorized to kill someone going down the street because I'm pissed off at them. Police are authorized to kill someone if it deems necessary based on imminent threat or danger, if they're using deadly force or whatever. They can't go out and just, that's another argument altogether, but you can't go out and just kill someone just because. So I think we need to distinguish killing versus murder. And yes, that's one of the commandments, thou shalt not kill. But that's, when you translate that, it's like thou shalt not murder, because killing is throughout the Bible. And it was authorized by God, but I don't want to digress into another subject. So let me go back to kind of doing backwards planning as far as everything that was talked about. To law-abiding citizens' point about some of the executioners getting PTSD, I think, yeah, there is a difference. My old mentor, rest in peace, Scotty Wilson, he was a pilot, a bomber pilot. And, he didn't really have the PTSD like some of the other people had, because, when you're dropping bombs from 20,000, 30,000 feet, you don't see or know where it lands or who it affects. So yeah, mentally he would say he knew that, lives were destroyed and property was burnt or whatever the case is, but it's not like seeing it up close, or through the scope of a sniper, or through, if you're talking prison terms, when they push the button or when they, squeeze the trigger. You're seeing that a lot more up close. So there's going to be a lot less PTSD involved. But then again, there's still going to be that aspect of it. So even if they get automated equipment to do the killing of the executioners, there's still going to be somebody that has to do the programming. There's still going to be somebody that has to push the button or the timer. So you can't eliminate all the PTSD, I think, but I think that's going to go a long way if they can get it right. Yes, you're right, DJ ADT. There's no way of killing someone that's humane. We as society, we're trying to, quote unquote, make executions humane as possible, but ending somebody's life is never going to be humane. And I think this boils down to the fact of if you agree with the death penalty or not. Personally, I agree with the death penalty as long as you know that there's irrefutable proof. There's DNA, there's all kind of things now to go without a doubt if this person is guilty. Now, back in the day, I'm sure we've had a lot of wrongful executions because the technology wasn't there, the evidence wasn't there, the way to prove someone, the methods were not the same as they are now. So yeah, I was definitely not a fan of the death penalty. I'm really not a fan of it now, but I understand that there are just some things that you can't rebound from, and actions have consequences. So if you're a believer in the death penalty, I would think you would be okay with this. If you're not, I understand it doesn't matter what method is chosen, you're not going to be okay with it. And it is a money issue. I read an article about the Idaho situation. They bought 308 rifles. They had scopes, suppressors, bipods, and that totaled up to like $24,000 to retrofit the execution chamber and get it up to date. 1.2 million. So it was definitely about money. And I guess they're supposed to give the guy or the girl, the inmate, a sedative the night before, and then 4 hours before their moment of truth arrives. Right now, they have 8 prisoners on death row, 7 men and 1 woman. All of them are convicted on murder. So this is tough. I mean, I personally believe in the death penalty. If you have the proof, if you have the DNA, you have the evidence to show with certainty that this person did it, then yeah. But no matter what you do, slingshot, nuclear weapon, pistol, bulldoze, dump truck. I mean, it doesn't matter what you do. Killing somebody is never going to be humane in a sense. Now, we're trying to be dignified as a society, but you're still ending somebody's life.
Society has never been dignified, even since the beginning of time. Death has always been part of our culture, regardless of what nationality you are, what race you are. Death, killing, murder, no matter how you say it, has all been part of it. But I would say this, the only thing that's puzzling to me about the death penalty is, to your point, Colonel Esquire, you talked about individuals who have been executed, they kind of find out that they were wrongly accused. So, I hate to point out your career field, but we need, the legal, we need the legal group organization come together as a whole and do things the right way, right? And I think it would be a little bit easier to fall in line with execution if you truly knew that this individual was, without a doubt, he or she killed Joe Smo. Brother Dan, you have any comments?
Yes, sir. And that goes back to what I was wanting to express. It's difficult to back in the day to understand how they came across some of the inmates that they put on death row. For some people, it's difficult because some of those trials did not go fairly. They didn't get a fair due process because this is a touchy subject, because you do have innocent individuals on death row, as well as you have obviously guilty individuals on death row. That fine line of determining whether they got a fair trial or not can play into a big factor as far as when they go to get executed. Now, I get it, and the governor has to make a stay. Well, the governor might make a stay and make the wrong call. So you have a lot of factors that can go into it. I'm not a lawyer, such as the gentleman on call, Colonel Esquire. I don't know all the ins and outs of it, but it seems like there's a lot more in the play that should be addressed with some of the ways that they do business for these type of cases. I don't know the whole ins and outs. The other thing I wanted to get at, and this is what kind of really got to me, was when we start talking about thou shalt not kill, somebody's going to be in the comments, and already wheels is going, what about an eye for an eye? That's clearly there. Now, how does that play into thou shalt not kill? And I'll leave that to you guys to let me know, because I have my own opinion. My opinion is an eye for an eye. Oh, you murdered him, and I agree with you, law-abiding citizen. That's how you did it. That's how you gonna get it. You did this. This is how you going out. The problem is who's going to do it, and then it is justified, as Colonel Esquire says, because it is a legal type of way to do it. You're not murdering. You're being relieved of the I guess, for lack of better terms, the murder aspect of it, because you're doing your job and you're executing justice. So if you can explain that eye for an eye portion of it, I'd really appreciate it.
Yeah. Before you go, Dan, what if there was a option for a person to select the method that they are to die? If you're on the death row, so on and so forth, and they gave you the option to select, would that be easier consumed?
I think it would be a lot easier for a lot of people to understand that. I'm still a firm believer in this is how you killed somebody. This is how you're going to be killed. The problem is finding somebody to do it that way, because you have these heinous crimes where people get chopped up while they're alive. Well, who you going to find to do that? They got to be, kind of gone in the head to do that kind of stuff. But yeah, I'm a firm believer in the death penalty for people who are justified properly. But like I said, there's all kinds of other things that go into that fact, and you never know if somebody is properly justified. Now, the killer picking his method to go, nah, bro, I'm good. You fit to get it how you get it. This is what's on the books. You knew this before you committed the crime. Take the punishment, bro.
All right, DJ Eddie T.
What am I speaking on? What part?
Good question. And let's say individuals had the option to choose
Okay.
what death penalty they
Yeah,
are.
I've heard to say. I mean, boy, this one went from a firing squad to the Bible.
And the eye
So
for an eye portion also, if you don't mind.
yeah, well, the eye for an eye portion. I mean, from what I recall, I'm no Bible scholar, but I have done some Bible study. I want to say that was Old Testament. Correct me if I'm wrong, Colonel Esquire.
It is.
Yeah, Old Testament. So when Jesus died, that changed a lot between the Old and the New Testament. So, but yeah, again, what choosing? You're saying choosing your
Yeah.
picking your poison in a
Right.
sense.
Exactly.
I mean, there's no easy way to die, but yeah, I guess that person could, choose their way to go. Why should you make it easy on them though if they have gone in and just wiped out a whole family? But another thing is what I was thinking about as we were discussing this is, in all reality, yes, if someone were to do something to a family member of ours, man, we want the worst thing in the world to happen to them. But in all reality, does that really, really, really settle you? Both families, again, as we stated a couple weeks ago, both families have now lost people. So does that really, really, really settle your mind? Okay, hey, this person did away with my family member, but now I know that this person has now succumbed to lethal injection or firing squad. But does that really make anything better? Does it make you feel at ease now? Has justice been served in all reality? Oh, somebody's dead. Well, two people are dead now. So,
Yeah.
but anyway,
I'll be cool with it. I'll be cool with it.
yeah, we say that, but we've
I
never
know
gone
that.
through that.
No,
Yeah,
I know that.
that.
Yeah, I haven't gone through it. I'm gonna say it like that. I was picked one time for a jury here in Houston, and as things got closer, I was getting closer to being, in that 12. And when it came to it, I was like, I had to battle between, myself, like, do I really want to see this guy, put to death? And that was a battle that I had. So, I mean, when it comes to it in your life, I mean, in that person's life is literally in your hands. That's a difficult decision in all reality. I don't know if you've ever been put on a jury to where it's death penalty is part of it or not. I know Colonel Esquire deals with different things. Dan, I don't know if you have, but when somebody literally chooses you to be on a panel to choose if someone gets life or death, that's a difficult situation.
Without a doubt, don't discount that at all. But what I will say, if somebody killed one of my loved ones on my circle of friends, and it was ruthless, I wouldn't have a problem seeing that joker die, because to me, that's justified. That's the judgment that he requested or she requested. The second thing I would say is, when you are deployed in the Army, right? You always say you go in with 50, you come out with 50. It doesn't matter if you're combat arms or combat support, right? You want everybody to come back. But anytime somebody goes out that protective area, and it's not like they have an option or a choice, you have to send them out, right? And I just use that as a thought process of, like, things happen. Everything happens for a reason. You know, it may not make sense to some, but you know, if you trust, I don't have a problem with anybody. If they take one of my loved ones or what have you, I want them to die the same way, if not worse. Colonel Esquire.
Yeah. Okay. So let me go back. Well, first, 100%. Um, I'm in line with you, law-abiding citizen. And I'm thankful that there's a society in place or there's something in place to where I don't have to go get the ski mask and the gloves and go do it myself. I mean, that's just how I roll as far as that, as far as protecting your family. Uh, but going back to, we were talking about the Bible, an eye for an eye. Um, I mean, it's justified, but let me peel it back a little bit. Um, the Old Testament is still very valid, but Jesus came to fulfill the law. So we no longer, we do our best to fulfill the law through Christ, not trying to live the law through our own. We don't go out and, you know, get 2 turtle doves and burnt offerings and make sacrifices and do all those things because Jesus fulfilled the law. So we're doing our best to live the law through him. But with that being said, Leviticus, our society and our law and order and our system, all those government laws and structure, all that came from Leviticus. So an eye for an eye is valid. It's just that, now that, we're in the new age as far as with Christ and governments and all that. I mean, they're still carrying out eye for an eye. It's just not literally an eye for an eye. Now, some countries do that. Like back in the Middle East, if you stole, some gum and he stole it with his left hand. No, you getting your left hand cut off. And I do think we need to go to a lot of that to be more. I think America is as heinous as crimes are being committed in America, the prison system is pretty luxurious compared to most countries. I can't tell you how many times I'm sitting in court, a guy or girl's getting a plea deal. Man, they want to go to prison. They're waiving their 10 days or 20 days to sit in jail to go to prison sooner because prison is a lot better than a holding cell in jail. It's crazy. I mean, they got TVs, they got, you're pretty
Cell
much,
phone?
yeah, you pretty much living like kind of like a glorified dormitory, except you're in prison. Um, so I think we need to go make it a lot more strenuous and have more incentives for people not to go to jail. Um, but um, yeah, I don't know how I would feel if one of my loved ones were lost due to somebody killing them or whatever. I would definitely want to take vengeance myself, and I know that's not right. Um, so I'm glad that the system's in place to where I can put, I don't know if I would completely trust the system, but I know that for me, I would go and do something like that, but that would be weighing on my conscience. I wouldn't want that. And so I'm thankful that there's a system in place to take care of criminals. Is the system flawed? Absolutely. But it definitely beats me spending the rest of my life in jail carrying out justice.
Before we transition, I always try to find some type of personal situation to bring to the group. My mother's oldest sister was murdered in California by her estranged boyfriend. She was murdered. We haven't had her since, I think, 1975, I think it was. And this guy only got like 35 years prison. He did his time. They let him out a little bit early. Now he walks the street a free man. So yes, he served his time that was given to him, but he murdered somebody in cold blood. She was defenseless, but he's able to have a life now out in the streets of wherever he lives at. I just feel it's jacked up. Because nobody in my family can, different story. With that, any alibis before we transition to another topic?
I was watching a video the other day, and like you said, in the Middle East, their ways of punishment are completely different. Completely different. And I think if we were to implement some of those ways over here, I think a lot of things would be changed as far as, the crime rate would go way down. I saw these guys. They had 3 guys. They were sitting down. They had their hands tied behind their backs. I think they did. I don't know. But they took looked like some bamboo shoots, some sticks, and they were tearing the bottom of their feet up.
Throughout history, various forms of corporal punishment have been used to discipline, punish, or coerce individuals. Among these methods, Falaka, also known as bastonado, stands out for its simplicity and brutality. Originating in ancient times, Falaka has been employed across many cultures and societies, leaving a legacy of pain and fear. Falaka is a form of corporal punishment that involves beating the soles of a person's feet with sticks, rods, or whips. The word falaka is derived from the Arabic term for a stick or pole, reflecting its basic yet effective design. Often, the victim's feet are tied together or secured to a wooden bar to prevent movement during the beating. The sensitive soles of the feet, rich in nerve endings, make this form of punishment excruciatingly painful while leaving the rest of the body unharmed, at least superficially.
Man, if that was implemented over here, first and foremost, you wouldn't be able to walk for 2 or 3 weeks. But just some of the things that they do when they punish, I think people have second thoughts. Just say, like when we got punished, when we got our spankings, whippings, beating, whatever you want to call it. Whatever you want to call it. We thought again about doing, like, man, I'm not going to do that again. And that was just our mom or our dad giving us a spanking. And nowadays, you look at people, you look at society, people want to do this soft parenting. Again, I want our comments to blow up on this. This could be something that, we can talk about another episode. But if parents quit all of this soft parenting and go back to like a true punishment, it's not going to kill them. Again, it's in the, what is it? Spare the rod, spoil the child.
Yeah.
That's in the rod. That's in the word. God said it. I believe it. He didn't say, beat the hell out of him. He said, beat the hell out of him. That's what my pastor always said. The big difference. But anyway, I think if a lot of those things were changed, if punishments were changed, don't make jail such a luxurious place. Because I've heard some guys say, man, I'll go back to jail. Man, I don't have a problem going back to jail. It's like, well, obviously, jail was fun for you.
No
Man, that's not
responsibility.
somewhere that I've ever wanted to go. I remember when I was a little kid, my grandparents down in Morris, Oklahoma, they used to go and do little jobs. One of their jobs was to clean the jailhouse. My cousin and I, we went in there and we closed the door behind us. We 7, 8 years old. Man, that's not a place I want to be. Yeah, obviously there was nobody in the jail. The police officers weren't even there. That was just this little small town, little jail. I don't even know if the little building is still there or not. But I'm just saying, that's not even somewhere that you wanted to be. And you were locked up, and I won't say locked up. You had a door closed behind you for 20 seconds and you freaking out. I know good and well I don't want to be in there for 30, 40, 50 years. So, but anyway, my whole point was you change punishment. I think you change the way people are.
100% agree with you, sir. Cruel and unusual punishment is what they're going to say, though. But yet, they could put somebody up against the firing squad.
Man, it feels good to be doing this again. Reliving the days of my youth. I haven't had this much fun in a long time. Colonel Esquire. Also go by GIBSON. Ephraim G on the mic. It goes 1, 2, uno, dos. If I ain't the best man, I gotta be close. Best thing since sliced bread, I gotta be toast. I'm a soldier, always guard the limits of my post. Yep, Man Talk Central. I'm one of your hosts. I'm on point, precise with the poetry and prose, making that grade like it's the end of the semester. I'm the crown flow, always under the weather, but I don't need a booster shot. I like my bar 6 so the music's hot. Delivering the kill shot, coup de grace.
I know we're supposed to be talking about home defense, and stand your ground. So what I did, looked in the city or the state that I live in, and it talked about, because this is a stand your ground state since 2011. It said it integrates with the castle doctrine, allowing residents to use force, including deadly force, to defend their home without duty to retreat. In these states, if you're lawful in your home, you have no obligation to flee from a intruder. Now, Dan, you sent that video. Now, I'm gonna let you explain that video. Well, not explain it, but to my knowledge, the homeowner is one who's charged. Correct?
Yeah, the homeowner is the one who's charged in that video. They obviously, you know, you've seen the video. The people out there haven't seen it. Well, what had happened was he was at home, somebody broke into his house, and he shot and unalived this person. So when the police came, they eventually charged the homeowner with murder. Now the details of the case haven't been really put out there, but I thought it was an interesting topic, because how do you go from defending your home, especially in the state of Texas, because this happened in Texas, when your door is locked, somebody kicks your door in, they coming in your house, and you end up unaliving this person. They were armed at this time, so let me get that clear. You unalived this person, and now you're being charged for murder. That is crazy, because stand your ground, and maybe I'm misunderstanding the rules here, but stand your ground protects the person. Castle doctrine protects your property. So both of those should have took place. Now, I get it. Maybe, I'm not saying this happened, but maybe the intruder wanted to leave, shot him in the back. Maybe he used the wrong bullets. You have simple cases like that where one little thing can get you thrown off. That's why I recommend a lot of people, before we even get to this segment, know what state you're in, know the rules of that state, because you can go visit somebody, know the rules of that state before you get into things, because one little mistake can get you in trouble, just like with the case of James Harden. And I'll bring that up because everybody knows he got arrested in Houston at the wartime zone in Houston. Basically, you know, that 1-2 o'clock, because everybody knows Houston's a different city in the middle of the night. Well, the reason he really got pulled over was because his gun wasn't in a holster. So he did everything else legal. The gun was right there, blah, blah, blah. But it wasn't in a holster. They arrested him. Now he can't have his legal fire protection. So that was really what started this debate, or sparked this conversation.
Gotcha. So just for everybody, there's 30 states that recognize stand your ground: Alabama, Alaska, Arizona, Arkansas, Florida, Georgia, Idaho, Indiana, Iowa, Kansas, Kentucky, Louisiana, Michigan, Mississippi, Missouri, Montana, Nevada, New Hampshire, North Carolina, North Dakota, Ohio, Oklahoma, Pennsylvania, South Carolina, South Dakota, Tennessee, Texas, Utah, West Virginia, and Wyoming. And for those who don't know the difference between home defense and stand your ground, home defense, it's when you're confined to your home, vehicle, or sometimes place of business. That's your castle. Principle, you have no duty to retreat and can use deadly force against an intruder who unlawfully enters. Presumption, law often presumes you have a reasonable fear of death or serious bodily harm if someone is breaking in. The stand your ground piece, location, it applies in a public place where you have legal right to be. The principle, you are not required to attempt to escape or retreat before using force, even if it's safe exit is available. Requirement, you must not be engaging in illegal activity and must reasonably believe deadly force is necessary to prevent death or serious bodily injury. Colonel Esquire.
Sometimes violence is the answer. Hi, I'm attorney Jill Ruane, and in today's class in 2-Minute Law School, we are talking about stand your ground laws. Now, these laws essentially give people the right to stand their ground and defend themselves when they feel threatened with serious harm. Stand your ground laws can look a little different in every state. Some states still follow the traditional approach that when a person is facing a threat, they have a duty to retreat before using force. Some states have broad stand your ground laws where the duty to retreat has been removed, and force can be used right away without trying to escape first. Other states follow a narrow stand your ground law, known as the Castle Doctrine, where stand your ground only applies within your home. Let's say you're walking through a parking lot and someone aggressively approaches you with a weapon, making threats. In a stand your ground state, you don't have to try to run away and back down first. You are legally allowed to defend yourself using the necessary force to protect yourself from harm, even if that force is deadly, as long as you reasonably believe your life is in danger or you're at risk for serious harm. It's important to note that stand your ground laws still require a reasonable belief that you're in imminent danger. You can't just claim self-defense without a genuine threat. Each case is examined to determine if the response was proportionate to the threat faced. We'll go a little deeper on this in a future class. Class dismissed.
All right, let me clear up something. Nowhere in the law are you allowed to use deadly force to protect your property. The Castle Doctrine, you are allowed to protect human lives and your safety within the home. But yes, your home is your property, but that is interpreted to mean your family. You cannot blow someone away for trying to take your TV or your jewelry or whatever. You have to be in imminent fear or danger of your life or the lives of your loved ones, as far as the Castle Doctrine goes, in order to use deadly force for self-defense. Castle Doctrine also applies, as you said, like basically it's your home and places of worship in most places. So, you've had a lot of people run up into churches. You hear stories about that. Well, the Castle Doctrine applies to your house of worship as well. So there we have that. Stand your ground. Yes, you're absolutely correct. It's where you're legally supposed to be. If I'm at the club having a good time, or I'm at the grocery store, things get into it. No, I don't have to retreat. I can fight or stand my ground, but in order to use deadly force, there has to be an imminent fear of danger of my life being taken. If I'm getting beat up, in theory about the law, I can't pull out my gun just because I'm getting beat up. Now, if I feel like I'm going to pass out and die, that's different, but that's the key. And I think a lot of people don't understand deadly force. Yes, you can have a right to defend yourself, but you have a right to defend yourself with the appropriate amount of force required, you know? And I think, let's get into this guy that got his house broken into, ended up shooting him. There's a lot of questions that I have. I mean, we don't have any details, like Dan said. We don't have any details, but I do have a lot of questions. Let me back up. The Castle Doctrine. If someone is allowed to be there, you can't use deadly force. So say you and your roommate get into a fight and you kick him out. He's trying to come back in. You can't blow him away saying, okay, well, I kicked him out, so therefore I'm protecting my home. That's not how it works. Or a domestic violence situation. Can't, kill your wife because you got mad at her and kicked her out. She's trying to come back in and get her stuff. You can't do that. But getting back to, his name is Joel Adrian Flores, the gentleman that the article was about, that got arrested.
Charged with murder after a shooting at a home on Friday. Here's what we know right now. Police say they were called to Langley Drive near Randolph Boulevard in Big Spring about shots fired. When they got there, this man, 43-year-old Joel Flores, was seen outside. Investigators learned that 36-year-old Philip Lozano was dead inside of the home. They learned that apparently Lozano forced himself into the home while armed, and that's when he was shot by Flores, according to police. Officers say the investigation shows that probable cause existed for a murder charge. Flores was arrested on Saturday and booked into the Howard County Jail.
Did those two people know each other? He was armed, but was the weapon recovered? I mean, was it recovered on his person? Or did they recover the weapon somewhere in the house because he pulled it out? If he was armed, was there an imminent threat being posed? The thing that stood out to me, they found the body with multiple gunshots. So did police say, okay, well, he exceeded the amount of force used that was necessary, because You shot him 3, 4 times. Who knows? I don't know. Now, of course, in the heat of the moment, unless you're trained, most people are probably going to shoot more than once. So, we don't know about that there. And why was Lopez and the other woman he was with standing outside? You would think, this is my attorney hat coming on. If someone's breaking into my house and I shoot them in my house, man, I'm staying right where I'm at. So when the cops and the investigators come in, they can see, hey, this is what happened. They can investigate. I didn't move. I didn't do anything because I don't want to, disturb the crime scene or whatever. Because if I'm truly innocent, then yeah, I'm going to stand on business. I'm going to tell them everything that happened. And they're going to see based on where I'm at, how many times I shot them, whatever the case is, like I'm justified, I'm innocent. But I know this is going to probably get some pushback from probably the panel members here. But to me, this is more of a reminder of how important it is to weigh the cost and how to defend your family. Now, I'm a firm believer in the Second Amendment. I don't necessarily have to have 100 guns, but I definitely don't want to intervene with somebody else's right to own a gun, right? But with that being said, I have thought long and hard about how to defend my family. Because let's think about this. Now, Dan turned me on to the Springfield Army Hellcat model. It's a very nice weapon. I definitely like it, haven't shot it as much as I need to shoot it. But hypothetically speaking, let's just say I get into something, somebody breaks in, I use that weapon to shoot them. Man, the police are going to take that gun. They're going to lock it up in some evidence room. I may never get it back. Or if I do, it might be a year or two later. You see what I'm saying? So that's also something you got to think about. Do I really want to use my everyday carry or something to protect myself? But then again, it's like, okay, you got to be comfortable with it. But just so you know, you're going to be under investigation, or while the case is going on, you're not going to have that weapon anymore. Maybe invest in a panic room, cameras, tasers, animals, sirens. Like there got to be something else maybe people should consider to protect themselves. Now, again, I know people are going to be like, oh, I got to have the right to shoot somebody. Yeah, you do. And you should protect your house at all costs. I'm just saying you should know as a homeowner, protecting your family, what the cost could be. So I just want people to be clear. Yes, the Castle Doctrine is in effect for most states. Stand your ground's in effect for most states. But you have to show that you were in clear and imminent danger of losing your life in order to use deadly force. And there was something that happened in this investigation where this guy got arrested. The police looked in, saw what was going on. It's like, well, this guy needs to be arrested because this didn't meet the level of self-defense.
Yeah, the interpretation of the law is very critical. Some people really just don't know. DJ Eddie T.
Yes, sir. Two things. Okay. Say you're on the phone with the police. I've heard many, many, videos or whatever of people who were on the phone with, say, the 911 operator, and something's going on. This person is trying to kick the door in. Hey, he's trying to kick the door in. Hey, he's trying to kick the door in. Hey, he's in. Boom. They shoot him. Okay. What's the difference there? Do they get, off? Do they, what happens in that situation? As, we're talking about, protecting, the Castle Doctrine. Okay. That's one thing. A few years ago, when I first moved down here, I'll say, I don't know, 19, 20 years ago, whenever this particular thing happened, there was a gentleman who was a neighbor. I'm pretty sure you guys heard about this. I know, Dan, you've been in Texas. There was two guys that were robbing a house. They were literally walking out with stuff, TVs or whatever the case was. Now, they didn't have any weapons. They just had articles from this neighbor's house. This neighbor then shot the guys and killed them. He was free. There were no issues, whatever. You guys need to look that up. I can't even remember his name. But in a situation like that, what are you protecting? You're not protecting your castle. You're protecting your neighbors. But again, that didn't have anything to do with it. I think he was on the phone with the authorities. He was telling them, hey, I'm going to shoot him. I'm going to shoot him. Yeah. And so when something like that occurs, and Colonel Esquire, I really, really, really need you to kick in on this one. But what happens in that situation? He was of there was no threat to him because the guys, they were carrying out stuff. They didn't have any weapons, like I stated. So what do you do in that situation?
That was the Joe Horn shooting.
Yes,
controversy.
exactly. Joe Horn, yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, but he is a free man. I don't know if he's still alive or whatever the case was. But again, like I said, that was 20-something years ago. But it's like, how does that even come into play? How does he get off from that? What was he protecting? He was protecting his neighbor stuff. See, you have so many loopholes in what we're talking about. We call them loopholes because we don't understand the law like, Colonel Esquire does. But, how can a person get in trouble for that? Going back to this particular gentleman, yes, did not Joe Horn, but I'm saying what Dan had shared with us. This guy, killing this guy. Okay, like I said, did they know one another? Were there was there prior history? Had he come over there before? Was it an ex-boyfriend? Who knows? We don't know what the deal was. Like I said, we don't know the details.
You haven't pulled up.
Well, I didn't pull it up. I didn't read that article, but I don't need that to answer that question.
Mhm.
And what I've been talking about is specifically what the law itself says. Point blank period, just what the law itself, when you read the statute, interpret the statute, what that means as far as the castle doctrine versus stand your ground. Now, what you're talking about, to me, that's a simple answer. Prosecutors, district attorneys, attorney generals, they have a vast amount of discretion to file charges or decline charges. And so I can answer that by saying, based on, and I haven't read it, but it has to be something where the attorney general or the district attorney in this case read the report, investigated, determined that this person was justified for whatever reason. Now, am I saying he's right or wrong? No, I'm not. But I'm saying, which is another reason why we as citizens should be very careful to place our hands in our lives, at the mercy of district attorneys. Because depending on who the district attorney is, depending on what part of the country you're in, depending on if they're up for election, depending on if they've been appointed, whatever the case is, a lot of decisions regarding crime and criminal charges are political decisions. And so that would be the only explanation I could think of as far as like why the situation in the Joe Horn, he wasn't prosecuted, because based on everything, without reading it, based on everything that you told me, he should have been prosecuted because he wasn't protecting anything but property, somebody else's property at that. So based on the law, he should have been prosecuted, but there's something else maybe that we're not seeing. But district attorneys and attorney generals have, I don't want to say absolute, but they have a significant amount of discretion to look at charges and file them or decline them based on what's going on.
Hey, Eddie T, I'm gonna read something to the group. So it says the Texas Penal Code 9.41 and 42, deadly force to protect property. A person is justified in using deadly force against another to protect land and tangible movable property if they reasonably believe it is immediately necessary to prevent arson, burglary, robbery, or theft during the nighttime, or to prevent someone fleeing immediately after committing those acts. And then the other Penal Code 9.43, protection of third person's property. This clause explicitly, I can't even speak, extends these protections to neighbors or third person's property if the actor reasonably believes the third person requested help or they have legal duty to protect that property. So that's how he got off.
So basically he got off because, say for instance, if the neighbors were out of town, hey man, watch my house for me while I'm gone, that type thing. Okay, but Beginning has to prove that or whatever. I'm just using that as an example.
No, without a doubt. Now, that's a great one to bring up, right? Because what it shows is every state, every county in a state does things differently to what Colonel Esquire has stated, reference the attorney generals, who's going to office, so on and so forth. So when you talk about laws, there's so much flexibility and loopholes within laws, as we all have seen over the last 10, 15, 20, 30, 40, 50 years. It's crazy, period. So to Colonel Esquire, his point about, having or deciding how to defend your family, right? How do you defend your family in the house? I have a shotgun, I have a Desert Eagle, I have a couple nines, and they're placed throughout this house, right? Should something happen. Even though my wife does not want to see a weapon, she does not want to shoot a weapon, learn how to shoot a weapon. But the point is, you just never know what can happen. Now, in reference to the actual case that we initially talked about, I was like, maybe the guy was trying to leave the house and got shot. Maybe that's why the individual, but to you all's point, they don't provide enough information to really go off of. Any alibi?
Yeah, I got a little something to drop on the people out there. No matter what the situation is, or no matter how it comes about, if you are a legal gun owner, please look into something to protect yourself. There's insurance out there, or like USCCA, I believe it is, that will help you if you go into legal issues, having to use your firearm. Lord forbid we have to use our firearm, but you still need that little peace of mind to help you out, because you can get in a lot of legal troubles after you've defended yourself or you've done something worse. But look into that stuff, and hopefully you can get some defense to help your situation out.
Man Talk Central. That's what we're doing here. 4 dudes out of the mud, never ruling here. We give it to you, deliver like Amazon. You're listening to Kings and Champions.
Outstanding. With that, let's go ahead with comments for the good of the order. Let's proceed to cold close. DJ Eddie T, what you got for the people?
I just want everyone to have a great, safe weekend. Again, as I always say, keep God first. Should be a beautiful weekend. I don't know exactly where our viewers are living, but if you're having bad weather, I know it's raining a whole bunch up in Oklahoma, I'm pretty sure. Some things have gotten funky up that way. But anyway, just be safe out there, and look forward to you tuning into our next episode.
Thank you, sir. Thunder Dan.
Thank you for everybody for tuning in. We threw out a lot of information out there and a lot of good stuff that hopefully was entertaining, and you hopefully learned something. Please like, comment, and subscribe. And like I always say, treat everybody how you want to be treated, and hopefully we can all get along.
Colonel Esquire.
Thanks, everybody. Like, share, subscribe. We're going to keep improving, getting better. Appreciate your feedback. Have God order your steps. And hey, I'm looking forward to another episode. Thanks again.
Outstanding. As we close this episode, let's pause, honoring the loved ones we lost, appreciating those still walk beside us, and welcoming the new lives that remind us hope is always being renewed. Remember, our time isn't endless. We got more days behind us than ahead. So choose to make the ones left count. Lead with kindness, act with purpose, and whatever you do it with conviction. Make your impact, make it meaningful, and above all, make it yours. We thank each of you for your support. Continue to spread the seeds of love and respect. Until next time, we the 4 brothers from down under are saying peace.